What advice would you give to new music educators just starting out in the space? What lessons did you learn that you wish you had known?
Sure. Number one,
I'm Tom Metzger, and today we'll be talking to Donny Rose for episode 5, the final episode of How to Build a Successful Choir, where you'll get many valuable insights about how to build and manage your choir. This episode is about personal growth as a musical director. This video is generously sponsored by Choir Genius. More on them later. Donny Rose, so great to have you back again for episode 5 in our series.
Thanks.
And this is going to be about the personal insights and growth that you personally have gone through in your many years as a director in various styles. How many years have you been directing now?
Let's see, 38.
38 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's about as long as I have been singing in our beloved Barbershop Society.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So what are some of the most rewarding experiences that you've had as part of this? This could be a topic that
Sure.
you could probably talk about that for an hour.
Sure.
But let's keep it down to a couple.
I think, like many people, I had a seminal moment when I realized this is what I want to do. For me, I was in 5th grade, and my band director was absent, and he said, "Just principal, take Donny. He'll direct the band."
Meaning music and directing leadership within music.
Yeah, as a 5th grade child.
As a 5th grade child,
and, I showed up and thought, it'd be kind of fun. And Tom, I grabbed the baton, I turned the page, "Hey everybody, let's go to line 7, Little Brown Jug." I lifted up my hands and the baton, and all the 5th graders lifted up their instruments. I thought, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I went, and they took a breath with me. I thought, that's kind of cool. And they came in on beat 1, and I felt lasers coming out of my eye. It was the coolest thing. And I thought, I now know what I have to do. And that's what I decided I was going to do since I was in 5th grade. It was so electric. And I was lucky in the 7th, 8th, 9th, and high school, we could take electives. So in 5th or 6th grade, or after grade school, I realized you could take all these electives, and my band directors let me take my regular band class, which was the top band, and I could be in the lower band and play a different instrument. So one semester I'd play tuba, one semester I'd play clarinet, one semester I'd play French. And I didn't know any of the instruments, so I just sat with the 7th graders, and they showed me how. And so with each of these passing years, I learned all the instruments because my band directors would let me. And then in high school, as I mentioned on another episode, my high school director said, "Now you're probably going to end up teaching choir." And I had that experience, and that was really powerful for me. I think another experience I had as a director where I knew I loved teaching more than I loved winning things is I had this amazing symphonic band that was playing, grade 5 literature. We're doing Percy Grainger. We're doing all the great stuff. And my second band was horrible, just awful. And by the end of the year, my second band had gotten so much better, but they were such nice kids. And this was in '87. And I'm still Facebook friends with most of those kids in that little band. And they were just so proud, and they worked so hard. And so all the teachers out there know that feeling of, a good musician shows up and we play well, that's fun. But a group that's kind of struggling, that works through it and comes together, it's so much more rewarding. It's amazing. And then probably like the final thing that's been powerful for me in my journey as a teacher is learning from my student teachers. Because, you get a student teacher, and my first 5, I thought, well, I'm going to help these young people and mentor them. And that's, of course, what I did. But by watching them emulate me, I realized, oh my gosh, I do that. That's horrible. I need to stop doing what they are doing. And just,
like they're a mirror against
yes,
you.
They're mirroring me. Yeah. And that's terrible. And so it was fantastic to have that mentoring experience, because they were just so open and vulnerable, and I would work with them and they would work with me, and it was great. And if I could just encourage all those directors out there just to have a person they can trust and talk to, bounce their ideas off, and recognize that if you're not changing, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so we just have to keep adding new skills.
Excellent segue. So how do you keep growing and developing as a musician, as a director? What do you do to keep the insights coming?
Sure, I take classes, I read books, I go to seminars.
Like classes at a college?
Yeah, sure. Whether different things offered through the Barbershop Harmony Society, Harmony University is a wonderful program that I used to run. That there's online offerings. There are ACDA offerings that are Zoomable that I have gone to. I think one of my recent ones was a PVI, private vocal lesson I took with a woman that was just really transformative about me finding a scary part of my range, and it was really fun.
I feel like that never ends. Like however many times you've had vocal lessons, there's always something else, right?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
As your voice changes and stuff.
The other thing is I love reading about leadership and helping people, because I realize that most of us are like really obsessed with music, but forget that we're really working with people, and the medium is music, but it's really about like motivating and lifting up people. And so oftentimes directors who are brilliant at music are terrible with people, and they can't understand why their choir isn't working. And so that's where I've put a lot of my energy, is to growing me as a leader, as a motivator, as a kind person. Because, Tom, if you are a child of the 60s and 70s and you were taught in a band room where people threw stuff and you yelled, and the more you yelled, the better the band got, you are like absorbing, like, I guess that's what you're supposed to do. And as I've gotten older and done less and less of that training I received, my groups have gotten better and better because they feel safe and they feel loved. And so that's probably the biggest lessons for me in terms of growth, which is I just have to see what great people around me are doing and go, I want to do more of those things. And even ask them, like, help me. What are you doing? How did you get that success? Because I love it when other directors reach out to me, and I love to reach out to other directors and ask for their help too.
So would you say that starting this new choir, VanCity Harmony, link in the description, has been also a stretch and taught you things? And how's that going?
It's great. I have never done a semi-pro style group, seasonal, audition only, high level, wide variety of a cappella. So far only English, but that will change. It's just been really exciting to work with great singers who look to me like I'm gonna follow you. And I was telling you earlier that I don't think I've ever worked so hard to prepare, because there's just, the level is so high that I just can't prepare like I'm preparing for high school or college kids, because you're gonna be ready. I just have to prepare for the next level, which is like, what would I do if everybody knew the music on the first rehearsal and it was perfect? And that's kind of like, whoa, okay. And so I can't act surprised. It's like, that was great, let's do this, because if I give too much, like, that's awesome, pretty soon they go, oh, that doesn't mean anything, he's lying. It has to be love, praise, more, refine, keep honing. Now this, I love this. Have you thought, and that's the game we're doing with VanCity, which is when we have these moments that are spectacular, which we also have moments that are just like every other choir where it's like, well, that isn't quite as nice. But rather than focusing on that as a negative, that's just that opportunity to make that even more beautiful, like this section. So let's hear this section and let's toggle back to that section and sing the same way. And usually people are trying to force it, and once they learn, it's great.
Right. I'd like to thank Choir Genius for sponsoring this video. As a bit of a choral fanatic myself, I'm involved with an a cappella quartet, a choir, and a chorus right now, and they all use Choir Genius to automate basically everything: member management, communication, calendar and attendance, music and learning track distribution, and even registration, donor management, and ticket sales. It saves me and the whole team hours every week so we can focus on what we do best: filling up the risers with singers, signing on new donors, and yes, so I have time to memorize all of my music. I have so much music to learn. Anyway, it's incredibly cost-effective, replacing multiple tools with one simple solution. I know choirs where friends of mine have saved thousands of dollars per year. I don't trust everything I hear on the internet, but this is guaranteed. If you use Choir Genius and you don't save 80% of your time, they will give you your money back, so you really can't lose. Visit choirgenius.com and start your free trial today. Take control, save time, save money, and let your choir thrive. What advice would you give to new music educators just starting out in the space? What lessons did you learn that you wish you had known?
Sure. Number one, being a music educator is, I think, one of the most underrated, deceptively simple jobs. I know that, people like kind of would tease music educators and PE people like, hey, like gonna roll out the balls, PE guys, and hey, Donnie, you're gonna play some pep songs, and it just seems like, oh, and parents would tell me year after year, oh, and the kids want to be there. And I go, well, that is true. The kids, for the most part, do want to be there. But the relationship that a music educator has is much more similar to like a sports coach, because you're with kids inside the school day, you're with kids outside of the school day, and you're also with them for years, and you're also with their siblings. So usually you have a relationship with the family. And in the music world, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is when you work with young people and you mess up big time, you say you're sorry. And you also recognize that young people post-COVID are very more, they're just a little more fragile. It's just a different time. And so we just need to kind of lift up kids in different ways that we didn't have to do prior to COVID. And so right now, kids are kind of scared and hurt. And so just kind of lifting them up, we've seen each year get a little bit better. But it's
across the board?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The first year we played, it was awful. It was just so terrible. And in my mind, it's like, you're high school kids. You sound awful in my head.
Yeah.
And of course I didn't say, you're awful. I didn't say you're awful, but I did think it wasn't very good. And a lot of that was because we lost so much time. So it's an opportunity to help wounded kids, right? It's an opportunity to help kids that need some help and just lift them up. And so I guess we'll work on how to hold the instrument. But if you were to think about working with young people post-COVID and prior to COVID, probably the biggest thing that we've noticed in education is that at the grade school level, kids couldn't be left alone because parents said, well, you're 8. I'll stay home with you. But junior high and high school kids were a little bit more feral. And the parents said, well, I got to go to work or whatever. And so they were left alone for years.
Right.
For years, Tom. And so at a critical moment in their development, that was robbed of them, that social interaction. And if ever a kid needed social interaction, like you get in a choir or a band or an orchestra, it's the perfect cure. But it's the one thing that they didn't have. So what it meant is, as a new music educator, you'll now have to do more retreats and more talk time and more group bonding time than feel like necessary. But it's just what kids need. So you can't teach the kids in your mind. You got to teach the kids you have.
The theme we're on here that we have been for this whole time is how to build a successful choir. Maybe the question we could also ask would be why to build one. And the answer might be around some of those kids, right? And it's not just them either. It's so many people who these days are lacking that social interaction, and maybe it's a way that our culture is a little bit broken, right? And I wish that more people. There's so many reasons that they don't, but if we could just get through some of those obstacles and have those people go out and join a singing ensemble, or something comparable.
Sure.
I think it would be super, super helpful. And we couldn't do that without people that have the training that you have.
Oh, thank you.
And the willingness and the interest to start brand new groups. So in a way, I'm very thankful for
thank you.
You and people like you. Thank you so much for joining me for our series on building a successful choir and for watching this video all the way to the end. This was the last episode with Donny Rose, but subscribe to join me for future interviews. We have some fun stuff coming up that I know you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to hit the bell to be notified when those are released. That's all for now, so be successful and keep on singing.